When they look in the mirror and they're really honest with themselves, they know that there's been a slow decay over the course of time. They'll start to use language like, I used to be able to have energy in the middle of the day. I used to be able to have the energy when I come home with my kids at night. I used to sleep so deeply. I used to be stronger. I used to have more confidence. I used to feel great in my body. I used to feel sharp. I used to feel like I was unstoppable. I used to feel like I had a fire that was so strong and a sword that was so sharp I could take on anything. But I feel a little dull. I feel a little weak. I feel a little less than what I used to be. And when you start to understand that and you start to be willing to be honest, that's the first step in which we actually are able to take steps toward reclaiming and restoring what is actually your birthright.
This is the Entrepreneurs United podcast with your hosts, John St. Pierre and Rich Hoffman.
Hey entrepreneurs, today we're sitting down with Justin Roethlingshoefer. He's a trusted health strategist for top entrepreneurs and purpose-driven business leaders just like us. He's committed to leading stronger, living longer, and never losing our edge. Justin, welcome to the Entrepreneurs United podcast.
It's so great to be here, John, and I just appreciate you and the platform and everybody we'll get to talk to today.
You're speaking my language, and I think Rich's as well, in terms of the type of people you like to work with just by that description I just gave. But give us a little bit more. What exactly are you doing? And if you just had to sum it up in 2025, as you're working with purpose-driven leaders, what is the most important thing that keeps coming up over and over again?
So when you think of a purpose-driven leader, you think of somebody who's on fire for something. They're pursuing something. They want to serve somebody. They've got a skill set. They've got an asset that they want to get out into the world. And what we've noticed and what the patterns that we've started to find is that people who are on mission often sacrifice their health in order to get there and ultimately fall short of the true potential and the God-given gifting that they've been given. And what we are aimed to reclaim and restore is their health from a holistic and integrated standpoint so that they can truly realize the potential, the impact and influence that God's given them and create a legacy that is far beyond them.
So the obvious that someone would work with you on is when they have a health scare. And so they just got diabetes, they've got a bad back. So what, as far as a value proposition that you can convince some of the entrepreneurs on why health should be prioritized before you come into a health scare? Because I think intellectually it's, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, health is important. But to your point, I'm mission driven right now. I can work out in 5 years after I get this thing up and running. How do you appeal to people to really prioritize health before you're solving a pain point?
Yeah, so I think if people are actually honest with themselves and they look themselves in the mirror, they know they're not at their best. And those are the things that we can actually start to speak to people about, because when they look in the mirror and they're really honest with themselves, they know that there's been a slow decay over the course of time. They'll start to use language like, I used to be able to have energy in the middle of the day. I used to be able to have the energy when I come home with my kids at night. I used to sleep so deeply. I used to be stronger. I used to have more confidence. I used to feel great in my body. I used to feel sharp. I used to feel like I was unstoppable. I used to feel like I had a fire that was so strong and a sword that was so sharp I could take on anything. But I feel a little dull. I feel a little weak. I feel a little less than what I used to be. And when you start to understand that and you start to be willing to be honest, that's the first step in which we actually are able to take steps toward reclaiming and restoring what is actually your birthright. You are designed to heal. You are designed to thrive. You are designed to be on fire. You are designed to have endless and boundless amounts of energy. But anybody who's on mission, anybody who's on purpose, the enemy doesn't want you to continue to keep having this level of influence and impact. Why? Because we live in an exponential world. So if you do something over the course of time long enough, it's only a matter of time before the impact and influence gets so great that the exponential growth starts to reach the trajectory of what it's supposed to do. But if I can shut you down a day before, it means we're actually not going to reach the true potential of what was there. And so where we can actually come in is the longevity for what we're after. And what we speak to is we want to help people live for high performance today and longevity tomorrow. And that takes living by design, living on purpose, just as purpose-driven, intentional you are with that business and mission that you're after.
You said something about influence and impact. Can you go a layer deeper on each of those?
Yeah, so I think when we think about influence and impact, there's two things that I often see is that people of influence often want to make it about them, where in actuality, what we're after is when you are able to step back and say, hey, this has nothing to do about me, but it has everything to do about those that we serve. That's when influence starts to become inflated. And there's a humility that's required within influence. And you can tell the difference between somebody who's truly been humbled, somebody who's truly been in a space that they've come up against a lot of walls, they've overcome a lot of obstacles and realized it's not about them. And when they can be nothing, God can make it into something. And so we always want to help people gain influence, because if you can gain influence in a way that's in a humble way, man, you will change somebody else's life. And impact comes back to making sure that people understand that what I'm after is not about changing minds, changing bodies, but rather about changing hearts. If we can change the hearts of people, we can truly change the way somebody's living. And if you live differently, you can ultimately steward the gift that you've been given, the vehicle, the vessel, to carry out whatever it is that's on your heart, whatever it is that's on your body, whatever it is that's on your life, so that you can ultimately, again, have the influence and the impact that opens up doors for every single person that you're trying to touch.
When you were talking about influence, you brought up overcoming things. Was there something that you overcame that became a turning point for you that this became a life mission?
Yeah, so I chased my health for 34 years. I was the fat kid growing up. I turned into the anorexic kid in my teen years. Went through kidney and liver failure at 17 years old. Came down to the States on a hockey scholarship in pursuit of answers as to why things happen within the body. Went through all my bachelor's degree, my master's degree, my postgraduate work, really in pursuit of finding those answers. And it came down to really this one concept, which is understanding the language of the body. How is the body functioning? What is this body that we live in? It's so complex, it's so unique. And if we actually start to understand our own data, our own information, and then can change habits and behaviors beyond that, we can start to see real change. And so for me, I stepped into the NHL as a director of health and performance. And as I was there, we just started to see great success. And I started to publish books. I started to start businesses. I started to speak on stages while doing all of these different things, and ultimately burn myself out. And what I noticed was at 32 was just really feeling like I had come against a wall and my edge was leaving me, even though by all the world standards, I was successful. By all the world standards, I looked great. By all the world standards, I was fit. By all the world standards, I was healthy. But I was dying on the inside, and ultimately found that I had 4 precancerous polyps in my colon and a precancerous ulcer in my stomach, and was told I wouldn't see 35. And it was at that moment that God just downloaded to me that this is not an athlete issue, but rather a human issue. And if we can truly help people understand how to overcome and live a life that's different, that's personalized to them, that's proactive, that's preventable and performance driven, we can ultimately make sure that we can restore, reclaim, and redeem the health of those who are truly on mission and on purpose.
So, Justin, Rich talked earlier about that wake up call. We all get different kinds of wake up calls in this journey called life, right? Sometimes it's a business lesson, sometimes it's a relationship lesson, sometimes it's a health lesson. But too many of us on the health side of things wait for that wake up call to wake up. And in your story, that's what happened to you in a way too. It kind of woke you up a little bit. What should entrepreneurs listening to this actionably take from this conversation and go start doing today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think I'll come back a little bit. Is I think when people hear the story that I just told, obviously in 30 seconds or less, I was incredibly focused on my health. I was somebody who worked out every day. In fact, when I was diagnosed with these things, I just competed in my first CrossFit Games. I just done my first triathlon, just done my first photo shoot for Men's Health. So I, on the outside, looked great. All the muscles, all the abs, focused on the whole food diet. But what it was the other 23 hours of the day. It's not the workouts we're talking about. It's not the types of foods and the diets you're on. It's How do you manage stress? What's the rhythms of your life? What's the self-care that you're actually doing? How's your sleep quality? What's the relationship quality that you have? What's the rhythm in your life between stressing, pushing, and overreaching, and then truly regenerating? And so there's this language in our body, and it's the language of stress and the rhythm of how we're actually operating. And at the cellular level, there's something called heart rate variability. And what it does is it looks at that rhythm between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, basically the resting, digesting, and the stressing, fight, flight, overreaching side. And so many of us entrepreneurs who are hard charging, high performers, type A people, don't realize that we're constantly putting ourselves into this fight or flight stress state that's causing a burnout from the inside out. So yes, you might have a gym routine. Yes, you might have a health conscious home where you're focusing on whole foods, but that's at this point not enough. That's like elementary. This is like you should be doing this just because you're so grateful that you have a body that's able. If you're just not doing that, then that's a different conversation altogether. But we're talking about understanding what's happening inside, because if we can heal the inside, then the outside and the results in your life become the consequence in a positive way, not a negative way.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because as I reflect on the story you shared, and it was, we didn't go too deep into the story. It was a quick story, but you're right. You were focused on health. You made it all the way to the highest level of professional sports on strength and conditioning and health and all that kind of stuff. And there was still something missing. And so you're
Yeah.
right. I think a lot of times when we think as entrepreneurs about health, we think about getting rid of the dad bod or hitting the gym and looking good or whatever it may be. But there's still a lot of us that are high stressed, dealing with whether it be cash flow issues or employee issues, or maybe a bad relationship that they're in, that they also have to run the business at the same time. And there could be a whole bunch of different things going on. And so what you're talking about when you talk about it on the inside, but what I'm hearing a little bit through what I just said to myself is it's like the head and the heart in a way. It's like the connection point between my mental state and how I'm processing and digesting stress and things that are going on, and my ability to regulate my mood and those kinds of things, along with the heart. Do I have a fulfilling heart in what's surrounding me? That's kind of how I digest it in layman's terms. Am I somewhere close, or how would you bring that together?
Yeah, so I'll come back and I'll give you, I'm going to play two sides of it.
Okay.
So first is I've got a keynote that I do, done it probably 700 times by now. It's called Run Your Body Like Your Business. And when we think about this, when we say run your body like your business, what does that mean? So when we think about your businesses, you have KPIs that are telling you the health of your company. Is what's the cash flow monthly? What's your top line revenue? What's your bottom line revenue? What's the click-through rate in your marketing information? What's your retention rate of clients? What's the CAC within your business? What's the LTV of a client that comes in? These numbers. And so you're able to start to strategize and put very personalized approaches in place so that your business truly does thrive for the long term. It's operating well. It's a well-oiled machine. If a data point isn't right, it's a warning sign, often if caught early enough, to go and create a new strategy or to pivot into something that's going to work a little bit better so that your business starts to work well again. You've got these things, but in our bodies, we don't do any of these things. We might do a blood test, but the blood test is simply looking at blood serum, which is looking at what's already broken. So it's too late. We're now being reactive. We might go to the doctor and hop on a scale, but that's not telling us what the internal health side looks like. And so what we do is we are able to go inside the body, looking at things like heart rate variability, VO2 max, cellular deficiencies, DNA epigenetic information, being able to be extremely proactive in being able to understand this. And then what we do is we surround you with an executive team, a strength and conditioning coach, a registered dietitian, a functional medicine doc, a mental performance coach, a spiritual counselor, to be able to really holistically integrate the mental, physical, spiritual, emotional health together, so that now we bring you down this direction with hyper-personalized solutions, from your meal plan to your morning routine to your night routine, to how do we change time zones, to how do we travel well, to your exercise protocol, to your self-care routine. And then we build real deep relationship to bring you along this journey. And the data validates or redirects, are the plans working, or do we need to go in a different direction? So that's the way in which we start to work together, and being able to make sure that we are bringing you in a place where thriving in your health is truly inevitable. because I've got this equation I talk about in my book. When intentional habits paired with consistency done over the course of time creates inevitable outcomes. And we see that in our businesses all the time, but we've never seen that in our health. We've never maybe thought about it that way. So that's that first angle that hopefully brings some clarity to it. The second angle is, I go back to this, we've been built on Romans 12, 1 and 2. Use your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the patterns of this world. Patterns simply being values or behaviors. So don't conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And when you think about this true transformation, a lot of us are looking for transformation. We want to feel better. We want to look better. We want to think more clearly. We want to be more focused. And so there's transformation that we're looking for. But to be transformed, it can't be transactional. To be transformed, there needs to be a renewing of the mind. And if we think about mind, it's, I have to change my mindset. Well, yes, that's part of it. But if you go back and you look at what mind actually means, is mind actually was referred to as the heart. So mind was just the way in which they communicated to the heart. And so when you think about mind, we have to change what the heart's desiring, get clear on what the heart's desiring, get clear on what you truly value, while at the same time understanding what your inner compass and your decision-making process is all about. And so if we can truly get to the heart and mind concept of what you're going through, change your habits and behaviors and align them back to not thinking that this health thing is limiting or punishment, but rather stewardship, that's where transformation happens. So that we can go from fatigue to energized. We can go from cloudy-minded to mentally clear. We can go from not being able to sleep to sleeping deeply. We can go from struggling in our health to thriving in our health. That's the transformation we're looking for. And we've just been so blessed to be able to do that for thousands of people now. And just, we have the best jobs in the world, because between our team, we've got a team of almost 50, helping thousands of people across North America. We get to see thousands of miracles every single month. And that's, I think, just one of the greatest blessings of our life.
Yeah, Justin, I just want to repeat the formula because I think it's worth noting, right? Intentional habits paired with consistency equals inevitable outcomes.
So
Correct?
intentional habits
Yep.
plus consistency done over time creates inevitable outcomes.
Done over time. Got to add that in for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we run an event called the Entrepreneurs United Empowerment Experience, and our third year is coming up this October in Winston-Salem. But 2 years ago in Austin, we had Dr. Bill Kapp. He's the CEO of Fountain Life, who I'm sure you've heard of. And I remember reading Tony Robbins' book, Life Force, and it really struck a chord in me at that time. And I've been sharing kind of that message around, which is, and Rich, I think you say it better than I do, our current system is a system of reactive care. You have a problem, go to the doctor, they give you medicine to take care of the problem. There's not a proactive system going on. And so we're finding things way too late when we're already in the depths of things. And a lot of the part that you're talking about with the heart and the mind is a lot of times those stress factors and the heart rhythms and everything else contributes to your system getting faulty, right? And things happening within it. And so it still comes back to this proactive nature. And the decision to say, I'm going to be proactive about my health so I could have what you said, which I think everybody wants, which is high performance today and longevity tomorrow. The one twist that I think I loved, but Dr. Bill Kapp talked about was, it's not about longevity. It's about health span. It's about being able to do the things you want to be able to do with your grandkids, because you take care of yourself today and tomorrow, and consistency over time with intentional habits so that you can have that outcome. So I love that connection piece. Compare what you're talking about to maybe what Fountain Life is doing, just because I know a few of our audience knows what that is. We've talked about it before. We've had entrepreneurs learn about it, where they're trying to do proactive and using AI and using all this to try and figure out what's going on in your system. What is the difference between what you're doing and what a company like Fountain Life does? And talk to me just a little bit about that for a second.
Yeah, first off, I love the clarity or the fact you brought lifespan versus health span into it. It's a big thing that we talk about all the time, is the gap in America between lifespan and health span is actually dropping exponentially. And so the average lifespan of a human being is in our country is 76.5. You take a look at females today, the average lifespan is 78.2, average lifespan for males, 72.8. And when you look at their health spans for everyone is down around 61.3. And so there's a 13 to 15 year gap between the day that you die and when you actually stop living. And so what does that look like to start to shorten that? And that's what our mission is, not only just to increase longevity, but increase health span. And so that you can optimize the life that you've been living, because you've worked so darn hard your entire life to serve, to give. What does it look like to actually be able to do that right up until the day you die and not have to rely on anybody? And when we think about Fountain Life, or we think about some of these other longevity or health clinics, I love that people are getting more focused on this stuff and starting to bring a lot of these things in. You go to Fountain Life, you'll do your executive physical, you'll get your cancer scans, you'll get your cancer screens, you'll get your heart mapping, you'll get maybe a little bit of blood work done as well. And they'll say, hey, you know what, John, it looks like everything's pretty good. Just make sure you keep exercising and eating. And this is what I would suggest you do. Here's some supplements you can get. We'll see you in 6 months to a year. And it's okay, great. But all you've really done, if we're actually being honest, was that proactive or was that reactive?
Yeah, proactive to see if there's anything in my body reactively.
Exactly. Thank you. So that's literally it.
Yeah.
And so what I'm seeing so much in this health space, everyone's talking about how do we scale it? How do we reach more people? And nobody wants to build the relationship. Nobody wants to go on the journey with somebody. No one wants to experience the highs and lows. Nobody wants to get connected with somebody so deeply that they start to know them intimately so that they can walk them through the day-to-day grind, the day-to-day nuances, get really deep into the intimate details so that we come back to consistency and intentionality, and we're going on it together. So what makes us different is that we build relationship with people, with your entire team on a day-to-day basis. Yes, we're doing the cancer screens. Yes, we're doing the heart mapping. Yes, we're doing the cellular testing. Yes, we're doing the DNA epigenetics. Yes, we're going to custom compound for you. But we're pulling your wearable data in daily. We're looking at, hey, did you get your zone 2 training today? Hey, what's going on in your life today? John's going to reach out to me and say, hey, I'm traveling from New York City to LA and I'm staying in the Ritz-Carlton downtown. And your coach is going to say, hey, John, that's great. Here's your protocol for changing time zones by 3 hours to mitigate stress on your body. And oh, I looked up the gym at the Ritz-Carlton downtown LA. Here's the new workout based upon what it is, because I wanted to make sure you had the appropriate items there. So we're now bringing you on the journey, true proactivity, so that when we look at the scans and we look at these things, it's not, hey, this year we didn't have cancer, but 3 years from now we do, and now we have to take an action. No, we're going to continue to understand that we're moving further and further away from that diagnosis, because the habits, the behaviors, the things we do daily, the routines, the rituals are all in alignment with what the body is asking, because the body has a language. It has been created so beautifully, so uniquely, so wonderfully. But oftentimes we don't understand the language, so we completely ignore the whispers of the body for the shouts of the crowd. And that's what we are able to shut down, is we put a time energy shield around that business owner, around that entrepreneur, around that mission-driven person, so that we can create thriving for a long period of time, not as a guess and a hope and a wish, but rather with precision, because your body has a language and we help to do that.
Can you give a list of the top 3 to 5, 3 to 8 KPIs for the body that somebody who's listening who says, you know, I'm not quite ready to engage with Justin, but I'd love to look at a couple of numbers and just poke around, and maybe that might encourage me to engage with him. But what are some of those KPIs that people should be looking at?
Yeah, Rich, that's a great question. So when we think about, the truth is that our bodies are miracles, and we have 30 trillion cells inside our body working at any given point of time. Those cells regenerate, usually 500 million of them every 84 days, which means that over the course of a 5-year period, you can go from the depths of hell in your health to a thriving individual if the habits and behaviors aim to give the body at the cellular level what it needs. So my next question would be, okay, what do cells need in order to thrive, in order to optimize? It needs 3 things. It needs oxygen, it needs the ability to repair or detoxify, and it needs nutrients. If it doesn't get those 3 things, it creates in the cell what is called oxidative stress. And so if we look at those, it needs oxygen, it needs the ability to repair and detoxify, it needs nutrients, and if it doesn't get those, it creates oxidative stress. So those are the 4 things that are most important to understand how the cell is functioning. Now, the crazy thing is that there's languages or data or KPIs that are able to tell us where we're at. The most important metric we need to be looking at and understanding is heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is the language of our body that's communicating how well our body is adapting to stress and strain based upon the habits, behaviors, and lifestyles that we're engaging in regularly. So if we look at this, if you're a 50-year-old person, actually, let me even back up. A higher HRV score, a higher degree of variability, so a higher HRV score is a positive. It means that your body is adapting well to stress and strain. A lower HRV score is an alert. It's like, hey, you're out of rhythm. Things are not working well. The habits, the behaviors, and the lifestyle that you're engaging in is not actually setting up your body to thrive. It's actually slowly decaying it. And the crazy thing is that when we think about decay in our body, it's not overnight that something happens. It's slowly until it's suddenly. And so we need to ultimately wake up sleeper to the slow decay, because the slow decay is incestuous. It's something we don't even notice. And so heart rate variability is that wake up call, where if you are 50 years old and you don't have an HRV that is 45 to 65, then that is a wake up call. If it is below 45, it's like, hey, not operating very well, not getting what we need. And so when we look at heart rate variability, that's the first one. That's the first number. Second number is oxygen. How great and how high is the efficiency of utilization of oxygen in the body? And that number is VO2 max. And what we need for men is it's 45 or greater, and for women, it's 38 or greater. And so what that's telling me is if you have a VO2 max of 45 or greater, that your oxygen efficiency in your body is actually pretty good, and it's getting the oxygen into the cells that it needs and requires, and thus you're probably in pretty good shape, you're probably physically fit, you've probably been getting the oxygen into your body when we're just sitting here having a conversation or when we're sleeping, and there's a pretty low strain level on the body to actually get what it needs. The second one is the ability to remove toxins or regenerate. And the language of our body in which it communicates, that is through sleep quality. So not sleep quantity, but sleep quality. So how much time, what percentage of your sleep total time is spent in slow wave and REM sleep, or slow wave / deep sleep is sometimes what it's called as well. Slow wave, deep, and REM sleep. What is the percentage of time spent there? Bare minimum is 38% to 50%. That's where we want to be. That's optimal, meaning that our cells are getting adequate time to get renewed and to get regenerated and detoxified over the course of the night, because that's the only time something in our body called the glymphatic system is active that's actually putting us through that system. The last thing that we need to look at is nutrients, because at the cellular level, vitamins, minerals, and amino acids are responsible for 100% every single process in the body. So as men are finding themselves with low testosterone, they don't have a testosterone issue. They have a vitamin, mineral, and amino acid deficiency that's actually ending up creating a testosterone deficiency. You don't have a melatonin deficiency. You have a vitamin, mineral, and amino acid deficiency that's causing you to wake up in the middle of the night. These are the things that we start to think about that we often don't hear or are unaware of. And so this is the thing that we can start to look at. And when we think cellular deficiencies is a special blood test that looks at cellular deficiencies only. It's what we do on all of our clients. No doctors run it. Very few clinics run it because of the cost, because of the specific need and understanding. But when we really realize that if we understand VO2 max, we understand cellular deficiencies, we understand sleep quality, and then we wrap it all by understanding heart rate variability, we have a beautiful look at how the body at the cellular level is functioning, and we can truly be proactive in getting ahead of things before things start to break. And now we have to go and be reactive and start prescribing and starting to do something more drastic rather than let's heal from the inside out. Because if we know the truth, your body was designed to heal and it was designed to thrive, but we have to live differently.
My very subjective evaluation and opinion is I think we have an epidemic of poor sleep quality going on. And I think there are an awful lot of entrepreneurs that are not sleeping well, whether it be not going to sleep quickly enough or not staying asleep or waking up too early. What I just heard from you is to look at vitamin, mineral, and amino acid deficiencies, and that would be through looking at the cellular deficiencies. Did I catch that?
Yes, that's correct. And I think I'll also add something to that as well, Rich. But when you think about this, is most entrepreneurs, business owners, they wear fatigue as a badge of honor. They wear not sleeping as a badge of honor. It's validation that they're working hard. It's validation that they're doing the right thing. It's validation they're going in the right direction, which is why, again, when we work with our clientele and our people, it's not just, hey, here's your workout plan, here's your supplement plan, here's your meal plan, and here's your morning night routine. No, we're going into the mental and emotional and spiritual side of things, because there's healing that has to happen at the heart level, because you have to change your identity. You have to change your identity of that you're only valued by what you do. You're only valued by your outcomes. You're only valued by the productivity that you have. You're only valued by the way in which you perform. And when you start to see that you can change who you are and who you see yourself as because of whose you are, that's when everything starts to change. There's a freedom of how we start to operate, and realizing that sleep is a way in which you can actually start to pour back into yourself so you can be more productive, you can do more, you can think more clearly, you can ultimately be more effective in the role in which you're in. And so having this holistically integrated team is so empowering. And if I can take it even one step further, is I don't think it's by accident that this, and you're correct, there is a epidemic of poor sleep quality in our country, where we continue to see the degradation of the quality of sleep that we're getting. And I don't think it's ironic that the glymphatic system actually starts to regulate that out and helps our body create a stability of glucose and insulin integration. And I don't think it's ironic that we're seeing a massive rise in diabetes, a massive rise in Alzheimer's, a massive rise in dementia in a lot of our leaders, because they're not getting the detoxification that we need. Our country is the only country in the world that doesn't call Alzheimer's and dementia what it actually is, which is type 3 diabetes. And it's the inability to control blood sugar and insulin. And so when we start to see all of this come together, we're not just sitting here hindering on, hey, we need to get more sleep and rest. It's, no, this is a part of your recipe. This is a part of your recipe for success. You want an inevitable outcome. You can either be committed to being all in for stewarding your body better. And we have to understand that commitment compounds, but at the same time, so does compromise. So you can either be committed and see your health thrive, or you can compromise and see yourself decay. It's completely up to you as which one you want, but it requires us to live intentionally and differently.
So, very personally, my father is on the path to Alzheimer's. And John and I, as a matter of fact, did a podcast fairly recently, and it was one of the things that we had talked about as well. Would you recommend he use a continuous blood glucose monitor to look at keeping it within a range? I know you're not a doctor and all the disclaimers and so forth, but from what you're talking about is type 3 diabetes, and that being an inability to control blood sugar and insulin, would that be a good starting place for him?
Yeah, I would say the big starting place is, and we've just seen miracles happen. And you start to just go back to, how does the body function? How do the cells function in our body? That's the truth. And so if we understand that, we can ultimately create new ways of doing things. So coming back to this, number one, yes, a blood glucose monitor to understand what should and should not we be eating, and how is this impacting the consistency of our glucose levels every single day. The second thing I would have them do is a vitamin mineral deficiency test. What are we actually missing, so that we can start to rectify that? And the third is I would have him in a hyperbaric oxygen chamber 2 hours every single day, because that's going to hyperoxygenate the body, which is going to, again, slowly eliminate some of the decay that's just happening and taking over naturally. So I would start to look at those. Do we reverse it and it completely eliminates? Probably not. But what it does is it slows down the pace in which it will continue to keep going.
Wow.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, that's great. So I have 3 quick ones for you. Do
Yeah.
you recommend that everybody wears a blood glucose monitor, or just when needed to monitor?
It's a beautiful question. So with all of our clients, what we typically say is at some point during our journey in the first year, we're going to want to get on a blood glucose monitor for about 3 weeks. And I always say awareness and wisdom is worth its weight in gold. And if we don't use this and we don't have an insight to what's happening internally, then we're just guessing. And I would say at least for 2 to 3 weeks, it's something that we should do to see patterns and trends, because patterns will awaken us to what's there. My gosh, why is it always on weekends that I see this massive blood glucose spike? Yeah. Little do we know that on the weekends is Saturday morning when we sit down with our kids and we have pancakes and waffles and we think it's just this big celebratory time. But over the course of time, done every single Saturday, that starts to compound in a negative way that we don't want, that ultimately turns into maybe and because this is not a conversation about weight and weight gain and fat gain, and this has nothing to do with this. I'm talking about true performance and function long term. And so if we constantly see some of these habits that we're having, what is it? What's going on? I'll tell you a great story. Is we had this one client that had just been diagnosed as a pre-diabetic. He was extremely fit. He was running marathons. He was eating whole foods all the time. And he goes, Justin, I just don't understand. I intermittent fast. Like I do all the things I'm supposed to do, but I got diagnosed with pre-diabetes. Like what is going on? So I said, hey, let's hook you up to a continuous glucose monitor. Let's monitor for 3 weeks and let's see where the certain spikes are happening, because there's obviously something going on. And we started to see this after the course of 10 days, that there was a time in the middle of the afternoon around 3:30 where there would be a large spike. And then there was also one about 9 a.m. every single day. So there's 2 spikes. And I was like, what's happening around 9 a.m. and what's happening at 3:30? And he goes, I have this post-workout shake at 9 a.m. And I said, what is it? And he told me the brand. I'm not going to say it on here, but he told me the brand and we looked at it. The second ingredient is sugar. The third ingredient is artificial sweeteners. So that was spiking that blood glucose, and it was taking about 3 hours for it to come down. And then in the afternoon, it was hilarious. He goes, oh my God, that is the time that I walk by my assistant's desk and my assistant has Smarties in this little thing, and she takes a handful of Smarties as he walks by the desk, not even thinking, completely subconscious. And done consistently over time, it was creating this break in his body. And so that was the awareness. He's okay, done. Smarties off. You're now just putting like grapes in this thing. And we changed his morning shake and what he was having. And lo and behold, 6 months later, he's no longer pre-diabetic. He's thriving. He feels great. And so the answer to the question, long answer to something that was really short, was yes.
Okay.
2 to 3 weeks every single year, just to give you that little insight.
I don't wear a wearable. If I was to get a wearable to just self-monitor myself, which one would you recommend?
Oura and Whoop, hands down.
Oura being the ring, Whoop.
Yep. So either the band or the ring, whichever one.
Do you have both? Did you just show us both, or is that Whoop and a wedding ring? I guess just
I have both. If I go back to my story, my man, like in college, I was the walking idiot. Like nobody wanted to be around me. I had 17 devices on me at once, checking which was actually more accurate. I slept with heart rate monitors to be able to look at actual heart rate and ECG curves. Like I'm so deep into this. Like I want to know the accuracy of what we're looking at, and Whoop and Oura are hands down the best on the market.
What's your take on the Garmin? I have a Garmin Forerunner. Should I upgrade, or is Garmin Forerunner just fine?
Really great question. So Garmin is amazing for its use case. And what's its use case? Triathlons, GPS, tracking runs, all those things. Amazing. When I train for my marathon or I'm doing a lot of my pacing, I use a Garmin because they're awesome. For heart rate variability, sleep quality specifically, that's not what it was built for. It has the capabilities, but it's not what it was built for. Whoop and Oura, that's what they're built for, to be able to pull those metrics. So I love and swear for health and longevity, Whoop and Oura. For anything performance-driven, Polar or Garmin are my big 2.
Okay, last question. I just started intermittent fasting. I was doing 16 hours, done it for a couple of weeks now, did 18 today, so proud of myself. Worth it, not worth it, good idea, bad idea, or it depends?
I love this question, and I often go through a couple different seasons for this, or a couple different series to teach this, but really quickly, I think intermittent fasting is amazing from the concept of giving your body a break to actually digest and simplify out the glucose response and cellular rehabilitation, all of these types of things. However, the way we've been taught to do it is backwards, because what we typically end up seeing is that people push their eating window so far into the day that they actually don't get the nutrients into their body when they need it. And then they start eating later into the evening, which starts to disrupt sleep because they finish eating so close to bedtime. What I would prefer is I would rather see us bookend it, where we move and stop eating 3.5 hours before we go to bed, start eating 3.5 hours after we wake up, and we would pair those 7 hours with a 7 to 8 hour sleep every single night. We're talking about a 14, 15-hour fasting window just based on a circadian rhythm. And so when I come back, I talk about a circadian rhythm fasting window, which optimizes sleep, optimizes recovery, and at the same time puts you in an intermittent fast.
Love that. I'm on the right track then, because I'm doing 7 to 11. 7 p.m. to 11 is 16 hours, and that works for me. It's just
Great.
It's good stuff. Okay, Justin, this was fantastic. I could tell you that a lot of entrepreneurs that I know of are blind to this. They just don't lift their head up sometimes to listen to the messages that are out there. And sometimes the right message by the right person at the right time can really change a life like you. So I appreciate you coming on here today and talking to us and all the entrepreneurs listening, and can't wait to get to know you better as well, myself personally.
I appreciate you, John and Rich. It was great spending time with you both. And I just appreciate the platform and what you guys are doing and how you're trying to serve and impact people.
For sure. If people want to learn more, where do they go?
ownitcoaching.com is the best place to go. So ownitcoaching.com. And then obviously my social media at Justin, ROETH, is where you can get a hold of me directly. And again, I make it a point to answer all of the inbounds myself. You got me.
Perfect. Thank you, Justin.
Stay tuned as John and Rich unpack today's conversation.
John, you had said you're an IFer. You're doing intermittent fasting now. I didn't know that.
Just started.
What prompted that? And what's the science behind it as you know it?
So before I start, have you done it or are you doing it, intermittent fasting? Do you intermittent fast?
No. I try not to eat after 7 o'clock at night, but then, I eat breakfast every morning, and I have never done intermittent fasting. I think one of the interesting things that Justin said that happens is people intermittent fast, they have an 8-hour window. He didn't say this exactly, and then they eat garbage.
Yeah.
Because they can stuff in whatever they can stuff in the 8 hours.
Yeah. I'll
Interesting.
tell you why I started it. So I work out every morning. So one of my things, I like to get up at between 5:50 and 6:50 every morning and go work out. And I work out at F45, which is functional 45-minute training. And I do it with my neighbor, Joe. And we get up every morning. I either pick him up or he picks me up. So we got partner accountability and work out every morning. And we found that although we were working out continuously for the last couple of years, we weren't necessarily losing like the dad bod kind of components. And we went back to nutrition, right? We'd work out 5 days a week and then eat and drink IPAs and do different things on the weekend and then wonder why we're not losing any weight or why we not getting 6-pack abs. And as we talked about it, and I've been getting more and more just disgusted sometimes with how I feel when I eat too much. If I eat too much at lunch, I don't feel good. If I eat too late, I don't feel good. If I eat junk, I don't feel good. So I started thinking about that. And I'd heard a lot. Steve Herron, who we both know is an intermittent faster, and he talked to me about it like 5 years ago. And I'm like, you're crazy. You're not going to put anything in your body till 12 or 1. Like, you're nuts. And so I checked in with him and he said, look, there's this app called Zero. So I downloaded the app. And I was like, okay, let's give this a try. So Joe and I were like, hey, let's do this because maybe if we're respecting food more, we won't hog out a little bit on weekends or drink late nights or whatever, and we'll respect our bodies more. And let's see if this works, because apparently when you don't eat, what ends up happening is your body, instead of getting its feeding from its food, right, it starts eating your cells. It starts eating your fat. It starts eating different things in your body in layman's terms, right? That's the way I understand it, is that once you put fuel in your body, food, the nutrients or whatever, your body starts going after that. But if it doesn't have that, it goes after your cells and your fat and all that kind of stuff. So there's a hypothesis that your body can actually eat its own cancer cells, even if you're not putting those nutrients in your body, but you still need nutrition. So I was like, hey, let's give it a shot. So how do I do this? So I was like, if I just don't eat after my last meal, which is typically around 7 o'clock, I can do that. I usually have grapes at 9 o'clock or something like that. But if I just don't do that, don't drink or consume or eat anything after 7 o'clock, I can do that. So I started doing that. And I used to wake up in the mornings and get a coffee on my way to workout. Not a regular black coffee, because that's allowed in fasting. I got like a latte espresso with milk and sugar-free vanilla and whatever. Stopped doing that. Just drank my water. went to work out, came out. As of right now, I still have not eaten, and we're recording this podcast in a morning session here. And I can wait till 11 o'clock and there'll be 16 hours of fasting. I can do that. I've done it for the last 2 weeks and I feel like, yeah, I can keep doing that. Now, I'm not going to restrict myself on parties and weekends and different things going on. I may drink a little bit later, eat a little bit later, but I'll try the next day to not have my first meal till a little bit later. So that's why I got started with it. But I'll tell you what, there's so many different things I just don't understand. And as we talked to Justin about this today, I don't wear a wearable. Do you wear a wearable?
I have the Garmin, as
Yeah,
I
you
had
mentioned
asked
that.
him
That's right.
about. So I wear that all the time. I swam this morning. I wear it. It counts my swim strokes. It does sleep tracking. It does VO2 monitoring. It does HRV, all that stuff. Before I tell you more about that, I got to check in. So you've been 2 weeks on it. How's the dad bod going? And do you mind taking your shirt off real quick?
No, I won't take my shirt off just yet. But what I also understand is it takes a couple of months for this to start taking effect. So, but by the way, which goes back to what Justin talked about, right? Intentionally doing things, right? Your intentional habits done consistently over time gets you the results you're looking for.
I love that. Something you didn't know, and I thought this is better on a debrief than to tell Justin. But Shelby and I read a book, or actually we listened to the audiobook, Glucose Revolution. And right now, both of us are wearing continuous glucose monitors.
Oh, wow.
And it is fascinating. I have been able to identify when I'm eating too many carbs and the glucose goes up on a spike, I feel tired. Like it is like one for one tracked. If I'm tired during the day, it's a glucose spike. It's been very interesting. Yesterday, I ate pizza for the first time in like months because I've been eating super clean, and glucose went up. It also stayed a little bit high overnight. And also, my fasting glucose in the morning was over 100, which is pre diabetic range. So it's interesting because it didn't just shoot up and then the insulin came. So it came back down and you level off at your baseline. Like it's continuing to release insulin. Now, here's a fun fact for you. When you eat, every cell in your body needs glucose. When you eat glucose or glycogen, and there are a bunch of different things for it, it gets stored in one of three places: your liver, your muscle, or your fat. Those are the only options. Your liver stores somewhere around, this was funny, it was in the book Glucose Revolution. Your liver stores somewhere around the equivalent of 2 McDonald's large French fries of glucose.
Wow.
Your muscles, I believe, were 6. So when you're low on glucose, your liver ends up releasing some. So when you're low on glucose and your liver is out, then it comes from your muscle. So that's why people say, oh, if you go on a starvation diet, you lose muscle. You absolutely do, because your muscle stores the glucose and every cell in your body needs glucose. And once your muscle is out of those 2 large fries, then it starts going to a combination of muscle. And I don't totally understand the science between when does it pick muscle and when does it pick fat. I probably would need to read or listen to the book again. But just the idea of glucose, insulin, the 3 places where it goes. I didn't even know glucose was stored in the liver and the liver released glucose on demand. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that?
No, you just educated me. Thank you.
Yeah. You and I, it's interesting. We hadn't talked about it prior to this moment. We're both trying some different things because I think we don't want to be at that 61 years old that Justin said was the average, where we lose health span.
Rich, that's 10 years from now.
Oh my gosh. We
It's
got
crazy.
10, 11 years left. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to start going down.
It's
So
bananas.
we better start paying attention. And I feel like that's some of the warning call that Justin gave today.
Yeah, no question. But why don't we? Like, I'll give you just the parallel, right? As an entrepreneur or business leader, we work so hard in our companies. We're going 100 miles an hour all day long, weekends, trying to get our business to go somewhere. Then we realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing all this, but I don't have a life plan. That's one of the big lessons that I learned. I'm doing all this, but I don't know where I want to go in my life. So you start looking at your life and you design your life plan. There's a lot of entrepreneurs still today, Rich, I talk to, don't have a life plan for themselves, right? So you get that done. But then you look over the shoulder and you go, wait a minute, what about the most powerful instrument that I got, which is me and my body? I got no plan for that. And that's where Justin's really going at the core of everything. If you're not taking care of yourself and your body and your mind and your heart, and I love the way he connected the mind and the heart, because I didn't really make that connection the way he did before. And I asked him, like, so are you talking about the mind? You're talking about the heart? And he's like, oh, dummy, they're the same thing. They actually work together. And really, if you take care of that instrument, then you can be more present for your life goals. You can be more present for your business goals. That to me was kind of like the big wake up call that Justin was trying to send us today that really connected with me.
I love the optimize for performance today
Yeah.
and longevity tomorrow, and create a purpose-driven plan with it. It's interesting. I feel like you and I should be working more with our entrepreneurs on, now we're not health experts, but we should be working more with them on paying attention to longevity and health span and ensuring that's part of their plan. Now, we're not the right coaches for them on it. We're trying some things on our journey, but now we know a good coach in Justin that we could refer our coachees to.
Yeah. How many executives or business leaders do you know have a health coach like Justin or people on his team? How many?
I am not sure I know any.
I don't know. I know any either. It's ridiculous. Don't you find it like mind-boggling a little bit that we don't?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we mentioned to Justin offline, but when we do our Entrepreneurs United Empowerment Experience, that first year we had Dr. Bill Kapp talking about health, and it really woke people up to health span and the advances in technology and how you need to take care of this thing called your body. And it's kind of a little bit of another wake-up call here today. And it seems to me like that's something we should talk about again in Winston-Salem this year with our entrepreneurs, is really what are you doing and what are the things you could be doing to take care of this instrument?